Right now, as you watch this video, Mount Etna is sliding into the Mediterranean Sea. Europe's largest active volcano is moving 2 to 3 centimeters closer to catastrophe every single year, and accelerating. Scientists have confirmed this isn't a question of if, but when a collapse will trigger a tsunami that could kill over 1 million people within minutes. The mountain beneath Sicily is literally tearing itself apart, and what happens next will reshape the Mediterranean forever. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this might be the most dangerous geological situation on Earth right now. The data streaming in from Mount Etna's monitoring stations tells a terrifying story. Italy's southeastern flank, millions of cubic meters of volcanic rock and debris, is sliding toward the Ionian Sea at an unprecedented rate. But here's what makes this breaking news. The acceleration isn't gradual. During seismic events, the entire mountainside lurches forward in episodic slips that send shock waves through the scientific community. This isn't surface erosion or minor rockfall. Deep-seated sliding involves Etna's entire flank structure, a geological monster weighing countless tons that's been building pressure for millennia. The 2018 Nature Geoscience study that first confirmed this threat has now been validated by continuous satellite monitoring, GPS networks, and seismic data that paint an undeniable picture. The numbers are staggering. Standing 329 meters or 10,922 feet above sea level, Etna dominates Sicily's landscape, but beneath that imposing presence lies structural instability that threatens to reshape the Mediterranean basin itself. When this flank collapses, it won't just displace rock and debris. It will displace cubic kilometers of material into an enclosed sea, creating a wave propagation nightmare that emergency planners are struggling to comprehend. The Italian National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology maintains 24-hour surveillance, their instruments recording every tremor, every millimeter of movement. What they're seeing accelerates the timeline from geological scales to human urgency. The mountain is quite literally pulling itself apart, and the process is speeding up. But the truly terrifying aspect isn't just the scale of the impending collapse, it's how unpredictably it could happen. The physics of what's happening beneath Mount Etna defies comprehension until you grasp the forces involved. Picture a mountain the size of Etna, that's roughly 200 square kilometers or 460 square miles of volcanic mass, slowly tilting toward the sea like a massive geological seesaw. The southeastern flank isn't just sliding, it's being pushed by magma intrusions from below while simultaneously being pulled by gravity toward the Mediterranean. Here's where the science becomes a nightmare scenario. When volcanic flanks collapse into water, they don't just create waves, they create what scientists call displacement tsunamis. The collapsing rock doesn't gradually settle. It hits the water like a massive stone dropped into a bathtub. Except this bathtub is the Mediterranean Sea, and the stone weighs millions of tons. The wave mechanics are terrifying. In deep water, these tsunami waves travel at speeds reaching 700 kilometers per hour or 435 miles per hour. But it's when they approach Sicily's coast that the real horror begins. The Mediterranean's enclosed basin acts like a funnel, concentrating and amplifying wave energy. Computer simulations predict wave heights of 10 to 30 meters. That's 33 to 98 feet of water moving at highway speeds. Think about that for a moment. A wall of water taller than a 3-story building, moving faster than a race car, striking Sicily's densely populated eastern coast with virtually no warning time. The wave wouldn't just crash and recede, it would surge inland, carrying debris, vehicles, and structures for kilometers before the water finally stopped. But here's what makes this scenario uniquely terrifying. The collapse could happen without significant seismic warning. Traditional earthquake prediction relies on precursor events, but flank collapses can occur during periods of relative seismic quiet. The mountain could literally fall into the sea on what appears to be a normal Tuesday morning. Stay with me, because understanding who lives in this death zone makes the science even more chilling. Maria lives in Catania, Sicily's second-largest city, home to 311,000 people. Every morning, she wakes up to Mount Etna's silhouette against the sunrise, a view that millions of tourists travel thousands of miles to see. What Maria knows but tries not to think about is that her beautiful view could become her death sentence in less than 15 minutes. "The ground trembles beneath our feet," Maria told local reporters. "We live in fear of the mountain." Her fear isn't irrational, it's geological reality. Catania sits directly in the primary impact zone, where tsunami waves could reach maximum height before surging inland through streets, homes, and businesses that have stood for generations. Just north of Catania lies Messina, population 220,000, positioned at the narrow strait separating Sicily from mainland Italy. Messina residents face a double threat, not only the initial tsunami impact, but the geographic funnel effect of the strait that could amplify wave heights even further. Local resident testimonies flooding social media paint a picture of growing anxiety. "I live in Catania, and the idea of Etna collapsing keeps me up at night. We need better plans," posted one ex-user. The human stakes extend far beyond these major cities. Dozens of coastal villages dot Sicily's eastern shore, fishing communities, tourist destinations, and residential areas where families have lived for centuries. These communities have evacuation routes designed for volcanic eruptions, not tsunamis. Roads lead inland, but not quickly enough. Tourist populations create additional complexity, particularly during Sicily's peak season, when temporary residents who don't know evacuation routes swell coastal populations. "I've lived in Messina my whole life. The idea of a wave wiping us out is unthinkable," shared another social media user. But the unthinkable is exactly what scientists are preparing for, because the mathematics of survival come down to brutal simplicity: 10 to 15 minutes between collapse and impact, with over 500,000 people in immediate danger zones. The southeastern flank of Etna is moving faster than we thought. A collapse isn't a question of if, but when. These words from Dr. Morelia Urlaub, lead author of the pivotal 2018 Nature Geoscience study, represent the scientific consensus that has emerged from years of monitoring and analysis. Dr. Francesca Rossi, a leading volcanologist studying Etna, puts it more directly: the mountain is alive, and it's moving. Her research team has documented not just the movement itself, but the acceleration pattern that suggests increasing instability. We're talking about a potential tsunami that could kill over 1 million people. "We must improve monitoring now," warns an INGV scientist who requested anonymity due to the sensitive nature of the threat assessment. The scientific community isn't just worried about Etna, they're terrified by their own inability to predict the exact timing. "We have the technology to monitor Etna, but predicting a collapse is still a huge challenge," admits Dr. Boris Benka, a volcanologist at INGV. "The monitoring networks can track movement, measure seismic activity, and analyze ground deformation, but they cannot answer the one question that matters most: when will it happen?" A tsunami from Etna would give us almost no time to react, minutes, not hours, warns a tsunami expert from the European Geosciences Union. This time constraint transforms every aspect of emergency planning, from theoretical exercise to desperate race against geological inevitability. Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte's office has stated, "We are doing everything we can to monitor the situation and prepare for the worst, but even government officials acknowledge the limitations of current warning systems. The movement patterns recorded by satellite monitoring reveal an acceleration that follows earthquake cycles, but with a terrifying twist. During major seismic events, Etna's southeastern flank doesn't just shift gradually, It lurches forward in sudden, dramatic movements that can exceed normal annual displacement in a matter of hours. This episodic acceleration means the collapse timeline isn't linear. Instead of smooth, predictable sliding, the flank exhibits what geologists call stick-slip behavior. Pressure builds until friction can no longer hold the massive structure in place, then releases catastrophically. Each release brings the final collapse closer while making prediction even more difficult. The 2018 eruption provided a chilling preview of this acceleration. Visible fissures appeared near the southeastern flank, and residents reported feeling the ground splitting apart beneath their feet. Fishermen in the Ionian Sea began noticing unusual underwater activity patterns, subtle changes that suggest deep-seated movement is affecting even the seafloor geology. GPS monitoring stations show the acceleration isn't just horizontal. The flank is also subsiding vertically, indicating that the internal structure supporting millions of tons of volcanic material is gradually failing. This three-dimensional movement pattern suggests that when failure occurs, it won't be a simple landslide. It will be a complete structural collapse involving the entire southeastern face of Europe's largest active volcano. What makes this escalation pattern particularly ominous is its stealth nature. Unlike earthquakes that announce themselves with precursor swarms, flank collapses can occur during periods of relative calm. The mountain could literally fall apart on what appears to be a quiet day, giving no one time to prepare, evacuate, or even understand what's happening until the tsunami waves are already racing across the Mediterranean. But understanding how this threat compares to historical disasters reveals why experts are calling this an unprecedented danger. History provides terrifying precedent for what Mount Etna could unleash. In 1693, an earthquake near Etna generated a localized tsunami that killed thousands of Sicilians, offering a preview of the destruction possible from volcanic-related water displacement. But that historical event pales beside what scientists now understand could happen. The 1958 Lituya Bay landslide in Alaska created a mega-tsunami reaching 524 meters, or 1,720 feet in height, the tallest tsunami wave ever recorded. While Etna's collapse wouldn't generate anything approaching that extreme height, the populated Mediterranean setting creates far greater human stakes than remote Alaska experienced. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami killed over 230,000 people across multiple countries, demonstrating how quickly tsunami waves can devastate unprepared coastal populations. But that disaster provided hours of warning time for distant shores. Etna's collapse would give Sicily's coast mere minutes. Perhaps most relevant is the 1755 Lisbon earthquake and tsunami that killed between 10,000 and 100,000 people across Portugal and beyond. Like the potential Etna scenario, this disaster struck a major population center with minimal warning, reshaping entire coastlines and leaving psychological scars that lasted generations. Right now, Mount Etna's monitoring networks show continued movement without immediate collapse indicators, but this apparent stability masks the underlying danger that keeps scientists awake at night. The southeastern flank continues its inexorable slide toward the Mediterranean, accumulating stress with every passing day. Current risk assessment places the threat level at significant and inevitable, though timing remains the critical unknown. ENGV's continuous monitoring detects minor seismic activity and ongoing ground deformation, but no dramatic escalation that would suggest imminent collapse. This technical calm might be the most dangerous aspect of the entire situation. Sicily's coast isn't ready for a tsunami. Evacuation plans are theoretical at best, warns one ex-user familiar with local emergency preparedness. Regional authorities have developed comprehensive evacuation protocols, but these plans assume warning times measured in hours, not minutes. The international scientific community has prioritized enhanced monitoring, with additional funding allocated for improved early warning systems. However, even the most sophisticated technology cannot overcome the fundamental challenge. Flank collapses can occur without the seismic signatures that traditional earthquake prediction relies upon. What does this mean for the over 500,000 people living in direct impact zones? They continue their daily lives in the shadow of a geological time bomb that could detonate without warning. Every day that passes without collapse is both a blessing and a step closer to inevitable catastrophe. When Mount Etna's southeastern flank finally collapses, the sequence of events will unfold with terrifying speed. Within seconds of the initial failure, millions of cubic meters of rock and debris will crash into the Mediterranean, displacing massive volumes of seawater and generating tsunami waves that immediately begin racing towards Sicily's coast. The waves will travel at 700 kilometers per hour, or 435 miles per hour, across deep water, but as they approach the coast, physics will transform them into towering walls of destruction. Wave heights of 10 to 30 meters, 33 to 98 feet, will surge across beaches, through coastal villages, and into major population centers with unstoppable force. Catania and Messina will face the initial impact within 10 to 15 minutes of the collapse. Emergency services will have no time to coordinate evacuation. Warning systems may activate, but residents will have only minutes to reach higher ground. The waves won't just strike once. Tsunami events typically involve multiple waves, with later arrivals sometimes larger than the first. Economic devastation will extend far beyond Sicily. The Mediterranean shipping industry will face catastrophic disruption. Tourism, Sicily's economic lifeline, could collapse for years. Agricultural regions producing citrus and wine will suffer permanent saltwater contamination. Recovery costs will exceed 10 billion euros, with reconstruction timelines measured in decades rather than years. But the human cost transcends economic calculation. Over 1 million potential casualties represent families, communities, and cultures that have thrived in Sicily's coastal regions for millennia. The psychological trauma will last for generations, fundamentally altering how Mediterranean populations view their relationship with the sea. The most chilling aspect of Mount Etna's tsunami threat isn't what we know, it's what we can't predict. Despite continuous monitoring, advanced satellite surveillance, and sophisticated modeling, scientists cannot answer the one question that matters most: when will the collapse occur? This uncertainty creates a uniquely modern disaster scenario. We have the technology to understand the threat, model its consequences, and even track its progression, but we lack the ability to provide meaningful warning. The collapse could happen tomorrow, next year, or decades from now. The geological timeline operates beyond human planning cycles, creating a perpetual state of potential emergency. The time to act is now before it's too late, urges Dr. Isabella Costa, an environmental scientist studying Mediterranean geological hazards. But what action can truly prepare for a disaster that provides virtually no warning time? Evacuation drills help, but only if people have time to implement them. Early warning systems help, but only if they can detect precursor events that may not occur. The threat extends beyond Sicily to other vulnerable coastal volcanoes worldwide. Mount Etna's situation isn't unique, it's simply the most studied and most threatening. Other volcanic regions face similar risks, creating a global pattern of potential tsunami generation that emergency planners are only beginning to understand. International cooperation is essential to address this threat, Antonio Guterres of the United Nations has stated, but cooperation requires prediction capabilities that don't yet exist. The mountain continues its slide toward the sea, accumulating energy for a release that will reshape the Mediterranean forever. And we can only watch, monitor, and wait for the inevitable. Mount Etna's collapse isn't a distant possibility, it's an approaching certainty that could trigger the Mediterranean's worst natural disaster in recorded history. While we can't predict when, we know it's coming. The question isn't if Sicily will face this tsunami, but whether the world will be watching when it happens.